Hello and welcome to the RDIEC Career Spotlight. My name is Brian Wright, and I'm with the Southeast Cornerstone Public School Division. Today it's my pleasure to introduce Cole Davenport, who is a news anchor with CTV News here in Regina. Welcome, Cole.
Hey, thanks for having me. A pleasure to be here.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I grew up in Estevan. I was raised there as well. Started watching the news probably when I was about like 6 or 7, something like that. Would always watch it on PVR with my grandparents and what have you, just to see what's going on. And through that, and then some other experiences, including your class as well, helped me really find a love for video storytelling and being able to do that. And like as we've gone on, you see the amount of video content has just exploded since I've been in school, whether that's through news or whatever. And now it's at the point where YouTube existed, but it not in the same capacity it could. And TikTok, has become a major platform. Instagram, everybody has video, and pretty much everybody has one of these, So and you got two cameras at your disposal at any point, and it's really like open the doors of creativity, I guess. But in terms of my background, yeah, in addition to picking some of that up in high school, I went to Assiniboine College in Brandon, and I have my diploma in what was interactive media arts at the time, but now I believe is under the program name media production once again, which it had kind of circled back on that. And that kind of gave me a wide range of skills that I still get to put to use every day, even as my roles at CTV have kind of evolved and changed.
What does your job look like right now?
Well, these days I'm the assignment editor, so I'm a lot more behind the scenes than I've been in the past. I My current job is I help the reporters that we have find their stories for the day and help decide which of those stories are going to go ahead alongside our editorial team and everything like that. So anything that you see on ctvnews.ca/Regina, I have to get the website plug in there. I've likely at least had a little bit of say on how that kind of goes ahead and helping out the reporters with that. But that's a pretty recent thing. I've had a couple of different jobs with CTV over the years. Started out as a reporter, as anybody getting into the news business does, and specifically, I was a video journalist. A couple places call them, I think, multimedia journalists and things like, or multi-skilled journalists and other kind of buzzwords like that. But basically, what it means is that you're going out with a camera and you're shooting your own story, you're editing your own story, and you're writing your own story. And it's a really, it can be a bit of a balancing act sometimes, but it is a really cool way to just be a part of every little thing. Like I've been able to do some really cool stuff through news. I was in the RCMP's off-road training course. Got close to a passing grade on that. The instructor was telling me I got to do that. I've ridden in an ambulance doing the speed course and everything. And they're like, I had a big handheld camera for that one, and they just said, like, you're good, right? Like you got to hold on. And I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. And then they just start whipping it around these traffic cones at the airport and whatever. And it was pretty wild getting up to and doing a turn at like about 100 at one point, So they were right. You did have to hold on. I've been down in potash mines and everything. I always tell people that being a journalist is, especially a TV journalist, is perfect if you're kind of indecisive because you get to see a little bit of everything. And then after a little while reporting, I moved over into anchoring. I did the 5 o'clock news for a couple of years, and that was always a great time. And it's a very different kind of role, being more in the office and working on the newscast itself rather than an individual story. But I've never been better informed than I was when I was doing the 5 o'clock, and honestly, I still haven't got up there again. But it's always keeping tabs on stories, and if you ever hear about anything, don't hesitate to give us a call.
You said a lot of your job right now is behind the scenes. What does that look like?
Well, okay, that's easy because I just finished the morning run as we talk here. That's what I call it. And basically, you come in at 8 o'clock, and I'll take a look at whatever I had from the previous day or on Monday's case, the Friday, and see what kind of stories are still relevant. Some of them I'll take them off. Some of them will get added on depending on what breaks.
Right.
Do a little survey of what our competitors are talking about, and usually it's similar enough. Always on scoop alert though, just in case there's one that I'm just like, how'd they get that? A little bit of friendly competition there with the CBC and Leader Post and CJME as well, and just to always keeping an eye out on what they have, just to cover our bases as much as possible. Then we have a provincial meeting where we talk about what kind of stories us in Saskatoon are working on for that day. Obviously, Regina and Saskatoon kind of go hand in hand in terms of what news coverage is being done throughout the province for that day. So we work pretty closely on what that's going to look like. And then after that, I'll send out what is the first of 3 assignment sheets for the day. And it'll be, the first one is the preliminary. So that one is subject to change. The reporters will come in at 9:30. We'll meet with them and talk about, again, what kind of stories we're going to be after for the day. They'll pitch me any news stories that they've heard about, and we'll see if we can get those into the mix, depending on if it's faster or slower. A lot of it is keeping track of what kind of events there are, and not so much being able to go to things like the high-speed ambulances and whatever, but still being able to send people off and keep track of that. Like last week, we had a controlled burn demonstration that got moved a couple of times just because of wind and rain and whatever. But we had a camera operator with a drone like right above where they were doing these controlled burn demos. So it's just like a really cool visual opportunity and things like that. So I would say it's a lot of organization and keeping everybody on track and helping them to put their stories for the day together when it gets to that point. And then once we've had our morning meeting, I'll send out our next assignment sheet, which is the one that goes out across the country. Like there's a guy in Toronto who calls me every day and he asks like, what do you like today? Like what's the big story that kind of sticks out? And there will be days where I'll say like, it's a pretty local heavy day. The news is still important, but not necessarily anything that Toronto's going to be interested in per se. And just to have a chat with him sometime in the morning. And after that, just kind of set it all in motion and adjust as you need. And then in the afternoon, actually, as soon as we're done here, I'll probably start putting together our outlook for tomorrow, and then that'll be third and final for the day. But it's a lot of organization, a lot of things to keep track of, which I wouldn't have considered a job where I had to be organized
Right.
back when I was in high school, especially like in grade 9 or 10. But you do get it figured out eventually.
With a job like this, you're sending people off on assignments with a very strict deadline, as you need to have that story completed by news time every day. How do you manage that if they don't get everything done on time?
Well, it's deadlines are everything in news. Like it is it's a lot of work. Like it absolutely is, but it's super rewarding to be able to go out and meet people and talk to people about just like what's going on in their day, and it's like you'll do 100 news stories in a year or more, and every one of those will just be another day. But to every one of the people that you talk to, it's like, oh, I got like CTV talked to me today. It's like it's something that'll stick with them for a longer time. So it's a great amount of responsibility to have people trust you with their stories, and being able to meet them and all that. So there's that balance with the fact that whatever you do get from whoever, with some exceptions, has to pretty much be done by 5 o'clock, and you got to end earlier on the website as well. So it's a balance of taking the time with the story, but also like being able to move them along in a timely kind of manner as well. So it's the most stressful days for me are slow news days, which you'd think it'd be the other way around, but it's like it's easy to when everything is going on to just be like, go kind of like boom, 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 and it's like you get everybody done and you cover what you need to cover. But then yeah, when slower days when you gotta start looking, and especially when people are chasing stories down, like those are a bit more difficult. That sometimes can eat up most of your day, and that's also why I tell people like being a fast editor and a good shooter in this business is everything. Like that, those are the two skills that are so important to pick up like really early on if you even have like a little bit of an interest in news or video or whatever.
What does salary look like in a profession like yours?
Well, it depends on what market you're in, partially, just because a lot of the time, like the salaries will come with the cost of living. And the reason I mention that is that, um, obviously, what somebody in Regina or Saskatchewan, where the cost of living is a bit lower than say like a Vancouver or Toronto, is
Yeah.
going to be a bit different. There's a couple other things that factor into it, but usually the starting these days would is usually about 50 to 60, I would say, and then you start getting upwards into 60 plus as you get more experienced and what have you. And then obviously it depends on again what role and what market you're in. That's purely for in Regina or in Saskatchewan. And there's differences between what individual stations will do as well, like I said, depending on the cost of living and everything. So journalism won't make you rich, but it can open a lot of doors to other sort of opportunities. A lot of people do take on some side gigs and what have you, just to for a little extra spending money and everything. But it's
Right.
I'll put it this way: when I was in college, my one instructor would always describe your day job as your steady Eddie, and like that we learned a lot about. In addition to like the news and everything, and that's the path that I took. There's also a lot of different things that you can get into, like documentary and whatever else. Even if that's more of what you're into, news is always a great place to start because it makes you fast, it makes you solid, and it makes it so that you can go into any event and come back with solid usable video, especially for documentary, because effectively like you're putting together a documentary every day, just a
Right.
little mini one though.
What does a typical work week look like for you?
Your hours are all over the place. I think it was Jay Onright would say said it best in one of his books, was that the thing about broadcasting is you're always working when everybody's off. And for me, that was true for a long time. When I was doing the 5 o'clock, I was also doing the 11:30 and doing both of those shows simultaneously. So my shift was always in the evening and everything like that. And honestly, like being able to sleep in, not the worst thing in the world, and still have a job where it's like, your grandma will be like, "Oh, you're doing a great job. Like you look so professional," you know. Because there are gigs where it's like, you sleep until noon and everybody's like, "Oh, like what do you do all day?" But there's no question when they see you every day, right?
Right.
So yeah, no, it's a lot of weekends. It's sometimes evenings. And it's one of those things, especially like when you're starting out, that's where you'll be. But you do work your way up with time, and if you don't like it, there's always the government communications route to go. But that I don't know. I have a lot of friends in that, so I won't say anything too bad. But it's not quite. I wouldn't say it's as fun. It's definitely
Right.
more of a standard office job, but with that comes the more standard hours. So.
Tell me about your work-life balance. As you just said, your hours are random, they're all over the place every week. What does that look like for you?
Yeah, and it's so important to be able to keep that line. And I always tell people this. It's like especially after like a week where you've had a difficult story or something, that you need to take time to reset. And honestly, like when I'm off, I will make an effort to not read any news,
Right.
and I'll kind of get back in the loop when I get going. And like obviously that's a bit different since like most people like will read a news headline and then they'll go back to whatever they're doing. But when the news is your work, it is important to keep like kind of that balance. And it is also really easy in like the age of social media to get into that kind of doom scrolling mentality, except when it's news, it's like an endless pipeline, and obviously not every news story is a fluff piece, so you got to make sure you have that balance. And like for me, I keep that in mind for the reporters as well. It's like if I have somebody covering a murder trial one week or something like that, then the next week I'll try and get them a story about like puppies or something, just to kind of cleanse the palate a little bit and keep that balance as best as you can.
What are the opportunities for a job like yours right now? Is there a lot of career opportunities?
Oh, they're huge. Like, obviously the not as many people watch TV, but what has exploded is website and digital news and everything like that. And actually, CTV has been making like a real push to build up some of our YouTube audience as well, which is a bit more of a recent development. But we've been putting a ton of video on there, and it's just like we talked about it earlier. Video is everywhere these days, and it's a lot of how people choose to consume their information. And news has never been as important as it is now, just with how much misinformation gets out there on all the different social medias. I won't name and shame those, but the thing is that when you leave your news to social media, is that a lot of the time it'll get filtered through an algorithm, and we are still got that human touch to it, and it's like our goal is to report the news. It's not necessarily to just like keep you engaged. Obviously, we'd like to do both, but
Yeah.
we won't sacrifice one for kind of the other versus like anything that elicits an emotional response, especially on social media, is the type of content that keeps you engaged. So just getting back to the point of the jobs available is that every person that is working in news is one person that helps keep the stories alive of Saskatchewan or whatever. And news will always exist in some capacity. The way it looks today is going to be very different from how it looks tomorrow, and it even looks very different from how it was when I started.
Yeah.
And that wasn't even like too long ago. Mind you, I've been at this for a little bit now. But it's like the news will always continue to evolve, and there's just like people always have some level of wanting to be connected to what's happening in their community. So
Yeah.
there's always jobs around, and outside of news, like a lot of companies and government agencies and whatever, like all of them are also looking for video because it's what hooks people. It's all about getting people's attention, and I mean, hey, we're making a video right now,
You bet.
so that that just goes to show that there's endless opportunities for like if you can run a camera, and even if you start in news, work it for a few years, and then go off into something else, like it's crazy valuable experience. Like you just can't put a dollar value on that to be able to pick up some of those skills by using them consistently and growing that way.
What skills would you want in a new hire if you were looking for someone to come into your profession?
I'd say for the purposes of like the journalism side of it is that I'd like to see a good news sense. It's like if even if you just like read a couple articles a week from whatever news source that you like to read, and whether it's like something more specific like tech news, or even like entertainment or sports. Like sports is news a lot of the time, and you see some of the crossover there as well. It's like anyway, but so like read news. If you want to be in news, read news, watch news, like just learn about what's going on like right around you, and there is and you'd be surprised like to find out how much that like how much actually happens that is just in your community that you might be the only person who knows about, and what have you. Um, so there's that. On the technical side of things, I look for people who are good with a camera. Obviously, like we'll help bridge the gaps of like certain things for what we do specifically that other stations might not. But if you're a solid technical editor, you can do what I did and learn as you go, and you're going to make a lot of mistakes, both technically and in terms of like what you can and can't do with a TV camera, because there's a bunch of rules around that. I won't get into the boring details of those, but the news has to be careful, and everything's got to be verified and checked before we can go with it, or we're honestly at risk of getting sued, right? So you got to be so careful with with just like making sure that your facts are solid and whatever, and that's the difference between what we do and what others will do on social media, and just like post whatever they see that gets sent to them, and like without kind of that context. It's more just shock value than it is news. So it's like, but together, the news side of it and the video side of it, it can be such a cool opportunity for like the kind of stories that really matter to people and like really hit close to home. Like there's nothing that feels better than somebody reaching out to you after a story went to air and like saying, "Hey, really glad that you did that. Like, thank you for coming out and letting letting us get our story out there." And that those are the kind of moments that I always look for. Doesn't happen all the time. There's a lot of the time when the news gets people fired up. But everybody likes to be told they're doing a good job once in a while.
Well, I just want to say thank you so much for taking some time and chatting with us today on this career spotlight in the news anchor business.
Oh, absolutely, and any questions you have about anchoring news and what have you, like don't hesitate to send us an email, give us a call. It's there's some contacts on the website, whatever. If this is a kind of career path that interests you, or even if it's because you haven't quite made your mind up yet, then like don't hesitate. And it, we're always looking for people who are interested in this business and always like happy to and I'm always happy to help with anything that I can do to help you kind of advance, even if it's just the odd tip or what have you. So
Thank you very much for your time, Cole. There are many more career spotlights available at rdiec.ca. Have a look.